6 months later, Susan sat in her kitchen on Earth, drinking coffee and reading messages on a special communication device. The device was a gift from the Dracon, capable of sending and receiving messages across star systems instantly. It was based on technology that Kevin and the other students had actually developed, once they were free to work on their own terms. The kitchen door opened, and Kevin walked in. At 17, he was tall and lanky with Susan's brown eyes and determined chin. He grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl and sat across from her. "More messages from your admirers, Mom?" he asked with a grin. Susan rolled her eyes. "The Proximan Council wants me to visit next month for some ceremony, and Commander Nera says the new Morrigan government is stable now." "And what about High Commander Vex?" "The Dracon are still hunting down the last of the consortium members." Susan put down the device. "How are you feeling about everything now?" Kevin's smile faded a little. "I still have nightmares sometimes, about being taken, about working on those weapons." He shrugged. "But I'm okay. The counselor says it's normal." Susan reached across the table and squeezed his hand. After their reunion on the research station, she had learned the full story. The consortium had agents in multiple systems, all working to exploit resources like gifted students. When Susan started causing trouble on Proxima Centauri, and then Sirius, they kept moving Kevin farther away, hoping to keep him working on their weapons projects. What they hadn't counted on was a mother's determination, or that her search would expose their entire operation. The doorbell rang. Kevin jumped up. "That's Lily. She's back from college." He ran to the door and opened it. Susan's daughter Lily walked in, dropping her bags in the hallway. At 21, she looked like a younger version of Susan, with the same practical, no-nonsense expression. "Hey, Mom," Lily said, giving Susan a hug. "So, what did I miss while I was taking finals?" Kevin laughed. "Mom only conquered 3 star systems, exposed an interstellar conspiracy, and became a diplomat." Lily shook her head. "Seriously, Mom, I leave you alone for 1 semester and you start a revolution." "I didn't mean to," Susan protested. "I just wanted to find your brother." "Well, now you're famous." Lily pulled out her phone and showed Susan a news article. "Look, they're calling the new alliance between Earth, Proxima, Sirius, and Tau Ceti, the Carter Coalition. There's talk of making you the official representative." Susan groaned. "I'm an engineer, not a politician." "You're also the woman who took on 3 star systems to find her kid," Kevin pointed out. "People trust you. Aliens trust you." The communication device chimed again. Susan checked it and sighed. "What now?" Lily asked. "The president of Earth wants me to meet with the Galactic Confederation next week. They're rethinking their policies on developing worlds after everything that happened." Kevin sat next to his mother. "You should do it, Mom. You can make sure no other kids get taken like I was." Susan looked at her children. 6 months ago, her only goal had been to find Kevin and bring him home. She never expected to become an interstellar diplomat or to have species from multiple star systems looking to her for leadership. "Fine," she said. "1 meeting. But then I want at least a month off with my family." Lily laughed. "Good luck with that. You're too famous now." "I just wanted to find Kevin," Susan said for what felt like the 100th time. "And you accidentally reformed the politics of 3 star systems in the process," Kevin added with a grin. The communication device chimed again. Susan ignored it and stood up. "The galaxy can wait," she declared. "Right now, I'm making dinner for my kids, and that's more important than any interstellar crisis." As they moved around the kitchen together, Susan reflected on the strange journey she had taken. From NASA engineer to space pirate to rebel admiral to diplomat, all because someone had taken her son. The moral of the story was clear: never mess with a mother looking for her child, even if that mother was just slightly annoyed. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. "Report," he ordered. A panicked voice responded. "Sir, There's a situation at the research facility on Ta City. The human students have. They've taken control of the station. Susan couldn't help smiling. That's my boy. The screens on the wall activated, showing a young human male with Susan's brown eyes and determined expression. It was Kevin. The meeting room on the space station was large and cold. Susan sat at one end of a long table. High Commander Vex and 5 other Dracon officials sat at the other end. Captain Howard stood behind Susan, along with 2 Morrigan officers. We have investigated your claims, Vex said. It appears there has been a misunderstanding. The human students are part of a special research program. They are treated well. I want to see them, Susan demanded. All of them, including my son Kevin. Vex's tail twitched. That can be arranged. But first, I must ask about your activities in the Proxima Centauri and Sirius systems. You have caused significant disruption. I was looking for my son, Susan said simply. People kept sending him farther away. I followed. You stole Israel's ship and aided rebels against a legitimate government, Vex pointed out. Israel lied to me, and the Morrigan government was using children as forced labor, Susan countered. What would you have done if someone took your child? The question seemed to surprise the Dracon commander. After a moment, he nodded slowly. I understand parental instinct. It is strong in my species as well. Vex pressed The journey to Ta City took 6 days. Susan spent the time learning everything she could about the Dracon from the data Naira had given her. The Dracon were reptilian aliens known for their advanced technology and strict social order. They were also known to be very secretive. Susan's small fleet consisted of 6 ships, the Swift Current, which she commanded, and 5 smaller but well-armed vessels. The crews were all volunteers who believed in Susan's cause. Some called her Admiral now, though Susan still found the title strange. Admiral, said Captain Grace Howard, a Morrigan female who served as Susan's second-in-command. We are approaching the Ta City system. Sensors detect heavy security. Susan looked at the ship's screens. Dozens of Dracon vessels patrolled the system. Getting past them would be difficult. Any sign they've detected us? Susan asked. No, Admiral. We're still at the edge of their sensor range. Susan thought for a moment. Direct confrontation would be suicide. They needed another approach. Is there a way to send a message to the whole system? She asked. Captain Howard nodded. Yes, we can broadcast on all frequencies, but they'll know where it came from. Good. I want to talk to them. The crew set up the communication system. Susan stood before the camera, nervous but determined. Begin transmission, she ordered. The red light on the camera blinked on. Susan took a deep breath. My name is Susan Carter. I am a human from Earth. I have come to Ta City for one reason, to find my son Kevin and other human students who were taken from Earth without proper consent. They are being held somewhere in your system. Susan paused, then continued with more force. I do not come as an enemy. I come as a mother searching for her child. But I warn you, I have already disrupted operations on Proxima Centauri and helped overthrow government forces on Sirius. I did not want to do those things. I just wanted to find my son. She leaned closer to the camera. I ask whoever is in charge to contact me. Let's resolve this peacefully. Return the human students, and I will leave your system without conflict. Refuse, and I will have no choice but to take action. You have 1 hour to respond. The transmission ended. Susan sat down, suddenly tired. Do you think they'll respond? Captain Howard asked. I hope so. I'm tired of fighting. 45 minutes later, the communication system chimed. A Dracon face appeared on the screen. The alien had green-gray scales, yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and a ridge of spines on its head. I am High Commander Vex of the Dracon Protectorate, the alien said. Your broadcast has caused quite a disturbance in our system. I apologize for that, Susan said, but I need to find my son. You claim humans were taken without consent. This contradicts our understanding. We were told the students volunteered for an educational exchange. They're minors. Children. They can't give legal consent without parent approval. The Drakon commander's eyes narrowed. This complicates matters. Our agreement was with representatives of the Confederation, not with Earth directly. I don't care about politics, Susan said. I just want the students returned. I need time to investigate this situation. Commander Vex said, will you agree to enter our system under escort for diplomatic talks? We guarantee your safety. Susan looked at Captain Howard, who nodded slightly. Agreed, Susan said, but my ships come with me. Acceptable. Sending coordinates now. The screen went dark. Captain Howard looked concerned. Do you trust them? Admiral. Not completely, Susan admitted, but it's our best chance to find Kevin without more fighting. 6 hours later, Susan's fleet arrived at a massive space station orbiting Ta City. The station was shaped like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Drakon ships escorted them to a docking area large enough for all 6 vessels. Susan prepared to leave her ship with a small group of officers. She wore the formal uniform the Morrigan had given her, with the rank insignia of an admiral. It felt strange, but she knew appearances mattered in diplomacy. Be ready for anything, she told her crew. If something goes wrong, get back to the ships and leave. Don't wait for me. We won't abandon you, Admiral, Captain Howard said firmly. Susan smiled. I'm just a mom looking for her kid, Grace. Don't forget that. As the airlock opened, Susan stepped forward to meet the Drakon officials waiting on the other side. She had no idea that her broadcast had done more than just reach the Drakon leadership. It had reached every home, ship, and colony in the Ta City system. And it had reached the human students as well. The attack began at dawn. Susan watched from a command ship as the rebel fleet approached the government research facility. The large building sat on an island in the middle of a vast ocean. It was surrounded by energy shields that glowed blue in the morning light. First wave, begin approach, Commander Nera ordered. Small ships zoomed toward the facility. Each carried what Susan had called water bombs, simple containers that would burst and flood the power conduits. It wasn't high technology, just basic physics. Water and electricity didn't mix. They're past the outer defenses, a rebel officer reported. No alarm yet. Susan held her breath. The government forces weren't expecting such a simple attack. They were ready for energy weapons and explosives, not water. First impacts in 3, 2, 1. The ships dropped their payloads near the power stations. Water splashed over the conduits. Sparks flew. Suddenly, the blue shields flickered and died. Shields down. The officer shouted. Second wave, go. Larger rebel ships moved in, landing troops on the facility grounds. Susan watched the screens as rebels entered the building. Admiral Carter, Naira said, we should join the ground forces now. Susan nodded. She checked the weapon Naira had given her and followed the commander to a small transport ship. They landed near the facility's main entrance, where rebels were already securing the area. Inside, the facility was in chaos. Alarms blared. Government soldiers retreated from the advancing rebels. Susan followed Naira through the corridors, heading for the research wing where the human students were supposedly held. This way, Naira said, consulting a map on a small device. The secure labs are 1 level down. They took a stairwell down and encountered 3 Morrigan guards. Naira fired her weapon, stunning them before they could react. Susan's heart pounded as they reached a large door marked with alien symbols. This is it, Naira said. The research area. A rebel technician worked on the door controls. After a minute, the door slid open. Inside was a large room filled with workstations, but there were no humans. They're not here, Susan said, panic rising in her voice. Where's Kevin? Naira spoke quickly to a rebel who was checking the facility's computer system. The rebel's gills fluttered in what Susan had learned was a sign of surprise. What is it? Susan asked. They were moved, Naira said. 3 days ago. The government knew we were coming. Moved where? Susan demanded. To the Ta City system. All of them. Susan felt sick. She had come all this way, started a battle, and Kevin was gone again. Why Ta City? It says here that the facility is run by a species called the Drakon. They're the ones who requested the human students. Susan sat down at one of the workstations, trying to think. Ta City was another 10 light years away. How would she get there? Her stolen Zrill ship couldn't make that journey without refueling. I found something, the rebel technician called. Records of the human students. Names, ages, skills. Susan rushed over. The technician showed her a list on the screen. There, halfway down, was Kevin Carter, age 17, specialization, creative problem solving. That's him, Susan whispered. At least she knew he was alive. Naira put a webbed hand on Susan's shoulder. We will help you get to Ta City. Susan looked up in surprise. You will? You helped us win a major victory today. The government will be weakened for months. We owe you a debt. Naira's large eyes blinked slowly. Besides, many of us have offspring too. We understand your fight. Later, as rebels secured the facility and downloaded valuable data, Naira showed Susan to a sleek ship docked in an underground hangar. This is the Swift Current, our fastest ship. It can reach Ta City in under a week. Naira handed Susan a data chip. This contains everything we know about the Drakon and Ta City. They are a dangerous species, very advanced. I'll be careful, Susan promised. You will not go alone, Naira said. I'm assigning a small fleet to accompany you. 5 ships, our best crews. Susan was speechless. A fleet? I can't ask you to. You are not asking. I am offering. Naira's gills fluttered in amusement. We are calling it the Carter Liberation Force. Susan laughed despite herself. All this because I wanted to find my son. Sometimes the greatest changes come from the simplest desires, Naira said. Rest now. Tomorrow, you begin your journey to Ta City. As Susan prepared for sleep in her new quarters aboard the Swift Current, she thought about how far she had come. From Earth to Proxima Centauri to Sirius, and now on to Ta City. All for Kevin. I'm still coming, kiddo, she whispered. Just hang on a little longer. Susan walked through the spaceport, ignoring the stares from the amphibious aliens. Most were about her height, but with blue-green skin and large, dark eyes. Some had fins on their arms or webbed fingers. All of them moved away when she got close. She found what looked like a bar or eating place. Inside, the air was thick with moisture and strange music played. Susan approached the counter where a large Morrigan was cleaning glasses. I'm looking for human students brought here recently, Susan said. The Morrigan set down the glass and studied her. You're human too. Not many of your kind here. My son was taken here. His name is Kevin Carter. The Morrigan made a gurgling sound that might have been laughter. Taken? You mean sold. The government buys smart aliens to help with their weapons. Susan's face hardened. Where would they keep him? Capital City, probably. Government Research Center. The Morrigan's gills fluttered. But you won't get near there. Big battle happening right now. I need to try, Susan insisted. A voice spoke from behind her. You'll die before you reach the planet's surface. Susan turned to see a tall Morrigan female wearing what looked like armor made of shells and metal. 3 more armed Morrigans stood behind her. Who are you? Susan asked. I am Commander Naira, the female said. I lead the rebel forces in this sector. We heard a human woman stole Israel's scout ship and arrived here. She looked Susan up and down. You don't look like much of a pirate. I'm not a pirate. I'm an engineer and a mother. The Zrill took my son and sent him here. I'm going to find him. Commander Naira's eyes narrowed. You broke through Zrill security, stole one of their fastest ships, and flew it through a war zone to find your offspring. Yes, Susan said simply. The rebel commander made the gurgling laugh sound. I like you, human mother. Come with me. We need to talk somewhere private. Susan followed Commander Naira and her guards to a building nearby. Inside was a room with maps and communication equipment. It looked like a military command center. The government has been buying intelligent young aliens from other systems, Naira explained. They forced them to design weapons for the war. We have tried to free them, but the facility is too well guarded. I need to get in there, Susan said. Impossible. Even our best fighters can't break through their defenses. Susan looked at the maps on the wall. What kind of defenses do they have? For the next hour, Naira showed Susan their intelligence on the government research facility. Susan studied everything carefully, asking questions about power systems, security protocols, and building materials. Your weapons are energy-based? Susan asked. Yes. Plasma disruptors mainly. Susan nodded. That's your problem. The building has energy-dispersing armor. Your weapons just get absorbed. Naira's gills fluttered in surprise. How do you know this? I'm an aerospace engineer. I recognize the design. Susan pointed to a section of the facility. But what if you don't use energy weapons? What if you use something simpler? Like what? Susan smiled. Like water. Those power conduits can't get wet. Fill them with water, and the whole security system goes down. Naira stared at Susan. We've been fighting for years, and you saw the weakness in minutes. Susan shrugged. Sometimes it takes fresh eyes. Naira spoke quickly to one of her guards who left the room. I've called for our war council. We need to hear more of your ideas. I'll help you plan an attack on one condition. Susan said, you help me find my son and any other humans they're holding. Agreed. Naira extended a webbed hand, and Susan shook it. Within days, Susan had revolutionized the rebels' approach to warfare. Her simple Earth engineering solution solved problems the Morrigan had struggled with for years. She showed them how to disable energy shields with electromagnetic pulses and how to jam communications with basic radio interference. The rebels were amazed by her practical thinking. Word spread about the human mother, whose ideas were changing the war. Some began calling her Admiral Carter, though Susan insisted she was just an engineer. As the rebels prepared to attack the government facility, Susan felt conflicted. She hadn't come to Sirius to start a revolution. She just wanted to find Kevin and go home. But if helping the rebels was the only way to rescue her son, then that's what she would do. We attack tomorrow, Naira announced to the War Council. And if we succeed, it will be thanks to Admiral Carter. Susan looked at the faces around her, aliens from a different world, fighting for freedom. And somehow, she had become their secret weapon. Susan's mind worked fast as the security aliens approached her. She glanced around the room, looking for an escape route. There was a large window behind Ver's desk that showed the spaceport outside. I'm sorry about this, she said, then grabbed a heavy object from the desk and threw it at the window. The glass-like material shattered. In the confusion, Susan pushed past the shocked aliens and jumped through the broken window. She landed hard on the ground outside, rolled, and started running. Behind her, alarm sounds blared. Susan ran between buildings, trying to put distance between herself and her pursuers. She needed a plan. She needed a ship. Susan spotted a small hangar with unguarded ships. Using her NASA security badge, she tricked the door lock and slipped inside. 5 small spacecraft sat in the hangar. They looked like silver teardrops with wings. Susan approached the smallest one. Thanks to her aerospace engineering background, she quickly figured out how to open the door. Inside, the controls were strange but logical. Screens lit up as she sat in the pilot's seat. Okay, Kevin, she muttered. Mom's coming to find you. Susan studied the controls for a few minutes. She found what looked like a navigation system and searched for Sirius. The system showed it was 8.6 light-years from Proxima Centauri. The hangar doors were still open. Susan fired up the engines. The ship hummed to life, hovering a few feet off the ground. Outside, she could hear shouting. "Stop that ship!" Officer Zix's voice came over a speaker system. "Security alert. Human intruder stealing Zril scout vessel." Susan gripped the controls and pushed forward. The ship shot out of the hangar, nearly clipping the edge of the door. Behind her, alarm lights flashed across the spaceport. The ship's screen showed 3 other vessels launching in pursuit. Susan had never flown an alien spacecraft before, but the ship responded well to her commands. She pointed it upward and accelerated hard. The ship broke through the atmosphere into space. Susan checked the navigation system again and set course for Sirius. She had no idea how this ship's faster-than-light drive worked, but she found what looked like an activation sequence. Warning messages flashed on the screens as the pursuing ships drew closer. Susan took a deep breath and activated the FTL drive. Stars blurred around her as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. The pursuit ships disappeared from the sensors. Susan had escaped. Once she was safely away, Susan explored the ship's systems. She found the database and spent hours learning everything she could about the Sirius system. Sirius had 2 inhabited planets orbiting its main star. The dominant species were amphibious beings called the Morrigan. According to the ship's database, the Morrigan were in the middle of a civil war. "Great," Susan said to herself. "I'm heading straight into a war zone." The database also contained information about human resource acquisition. Susan's blood boiled as she read that promising human students were being recruited for their problem-solving abilities. The Zril were selling human children to other species. The journey to Sirius took 3 days. Susan slept little, planning what to do when she arrived. She couldn't simply fly to the main spaceport. By now, she was probably on every Confederation wanted list. As she approached the Sirius system, Susan detected a battle in progress. 2 fleets of ships were firing at each other near the second planet. She needed to avoid both sides. Susan directed her stolen ship toward a small moon, where the ship's sensors detected a settlement, but no military presence. As she flew closer, she saw it was a rough-looking spaceport with ships of many different designs. She landed at the edge of the port, away from the main facilities. The air outside was breathable for humans, according to the ship's sensors, but very humid. Susan grabbed a weapon she had found in the ship's storage compartment. She had no idea how it worked, but it looked dangerous enough to scare people. Then she stepped out onto the surface of an alien moon, in a different star system than the one she had intended to visit, armed with a stolen gun of unknown power. All to find her son. The spaceport looked like something from an old Western movie, if the Western had been set underwater and then drained. The buildings were curved like seashells, and the locals walking around had blue-green skin with what looked like gills on their necks. "Excuse me," Susan called to a nearby alien. "I'm looking for a human boy, a student who would have arrived recently." The alien stared at her with large, dark eyes and backed away quickly. Susan sighed. This was going to be harder than she thought. The EA's Persistence landed on Proxima Centauri after 4 days of travel. Susan was the first passenger off the ship. The alien spaceport looked like a giant glass bubble with dozens of different spacecraft docked inside. Susan approached the first official she saw. The alien looked like a 6-foot-tall ant with blue skin and 4 arms. "Excuse me," Susan said. "I'm looking for the Student Exchange Center." The alien's antenna twitched. "Ah, a human visitor. Rare to see one not in the official groups." The alien pointed with one of its 4 arms. "Exchange Center is in the blue building. 20 minutes walk that way." Susan thanked the alien and headed in that direction. The air on Proxima Centauri was thicker than Earth's, and the gravity slightly stronger. By the time she reached the blue building, she was out of breath. Inside, more of the ant-like aliens worked at desks. One of them looked up as Susan entered. "Can I help you?" The alien asked in perfect English. "My name is Susan Carter. My son Kevin came here for the student exchange program. I need to see him." The alien typed on a device. "Carter, Kevin Carter, Earth origin." The alien's antenna drooped. I am sorry, but Kevin Carter is not registered at any housing facility on Proxima Centauri V. Susan's heart raced. That's impossible. His acceptance letter said he was coming here. One moment. The alien typed more. Ah, I see the issue. Student Kevin Carter was processed through our port, but was transferred to a different destination. Transferred, without telling me. Where is he? The alien looked uncomfortable. I cannot access that information. You would need to speak with a senior official. Then let me speak to a senior official, Susan demanded. I will check if one is available. The alien scurried away. Susan waited for 10 minutes before a different alien appeared. This one wore a red vest and had gold bands on its antenna. I am Senior Port Officer Zix, the alien said. I understand you are inquiring about a student. My son, Susan corrected. Kevin Carter. I was told he was transferred somewhere else. I need to know where. Officer Zix's four hands clasped together. I apologize, but that information is restricted. Student reassignments are confidential. Susan narrowed her eyes. He's my son. He's a minor. I have a right to know where he is. By Confederation law, once a student enters the exchange program, their placement is determined by educational needs. Parents are not consulted on reassignments. That's ridiculous. Susan's voice rose, causing several nearby aliens to turn and look. You can't just take children and refuse to tell their parents where they are. Please lower your voice, Officer Zix said. If you wish to file a formal inquiry, I can direct you to our complaint department. Let me guess, processing time is 6 to 8 Earth months. Officer Zix's antenna twitched. 8 to 10, actually. We are experiencing a backlog. Susan took a deep breath. Getting angry wouldn't help her find Kevin. She needed to try a different approach. I understand, she said, forcing her voice to sound calm. Could I at least speak with someone who saw him? Maybe someone who processed his transfer. Officer Zix seemed relieved by her change in tone. Yes, that might be possible. Junior Clerk Ver handled that transport group. I will see if he is available. Officer Zix left, and Susan waited again. When no one returned after 15 minutes, she decided to look around. She found a door marked Staff Only in alien symbols and English. It was unlocked. Inside was a room full of desks with more ant-like aliens working. One young-looking alien with no bands on its antenna jumped when it saw her. You cannot be in here, the alien squeaked. Are you Junior Clerk Ver? Susan asked. The alien's antenna quivered. Yes, but I'm Susan Carter. My son Kevin was in your transport group. Where did you send him? Var looked around nervously. I should not speak of this. Susan stepped closer. Please, I just want to find my son. Var's voice dropped to a whisper. There was no mistake. The promising human students were diverted to the Sirius system. I was told it was a special opportunity, but something felt wrong. Sirius? Why Wold? The door burst open. Officer Zix entered with two larger aliens in black uniforms. Detain her, Zix ordered. She has accessed restricted areas and is attempting to extract classified information. Susan backed away. I just want to find my son. You will be held until we determine your status, Officer Zix said. The security of the Confederation cannot be compromised by one human parent. As the security aliens approached, Susan knew she had to escape. She needed to get to Sirius, and she needed a ship. Susan Carter stood in her son's empty bedroom, hands on her hips. Kevin's bed was made, which was the first sign something was wrong. That boy never made his bed. Kevin. She called again, though she knew no one would answer. The house was empty except for her. Susan checked her phone again. No new messages. She had called Kevin 10 times since coming home from work. Each call went straight to voicemail. She sat on the edge of Kevin's bed and tried to stay calm. Kevin was 17, almost an adult. Maybe he was just at a friend's house and forgot to tell her. But Kevin always texted her if he would be late. Susan opened Kevin's desk drawer, looking for clues. Under a pile of school papers, she found a strange document. The paper had symbols she had never seen before, along with English text. At the top it said, Galactic Confederation Student Exchange Program. Acceptance. What in the world? Susan whispered. The document showed Kevin had been accepted to study on Proxima Centauri. Susan knew about the aliens. Everyone did. The Galactic Confederation had made contact with Earth 2 years ago. But she had no idea Kevin had applied for an exchange program, and he certainly hadn't asked for permission. Susan's confusion turned to anger. Not because he wanted to study in space, she would have supported that, but because he hadn't even said goodbye. Susan called her daughter Lily at college, but she hadn't heard from Kevin either. Next, she called all of Kevin's friends. No one knew anything about his plans to leave Earth. As an aerospace engineer at NASA, Susan knew who to call. Her boss. Director Paul Johnson listened to her story. "I'm sorry, Susan," he said. "These exchange programs are new. The Confederation handles everything. We just provide the landing sites. There must be someone I can talk to," Susan insisted. Director Johnson gave her a number for the Earth Contact Office of the Galactic Confederation. Susan called right away. After being put on hold for 45 minutes, a bored voice answered. "Earth Contact Office. How may I assist?" "My son joined your exchange program without my permission," Susan explained. "I need to contact him immediately." "Name of the student?" the voice asked. "Kevin Carter." Susan heard typing. "Yes, student Kevin Carter departed Earth 16 hours ago. His destination is Proxima Centauri b. He's 17. He needs my permission to leave the planet." Susan's voice rose. "According to Confederation guidelines, humans above 16 Earth years can apply independently. It's all quite legal." Susan took a deep breath. "Fine. I need to send him a message." Messages to exchange students are processed in order of priority. Current wait time is 3 to 6 Earth weeks. 3 to 6 weeks. That's ridiculous. I'm his mother. If you wish to file a complaint, please send a written request to our office. Processing time for complaints is currently 6 to 8 Earth months. Susan's knuckles turned white as she gripped the phone. "Let me speak to your supervisor. My supervisor is on vacation on Saturn's rings. Would you like to leave a message?" After the call ended, Susan sat in Kevin's room, fuming. She was not going to wait months to speak to her son, and she certainly wasn't going to deal with alien bureaucracy. She looked at the Confederation document again. Proxima Centauri, only 4.2 light-years away. With the new FTL technology, that was just a few days of travel. Susan opened her laptop and wrote an email to Director Johnson. "Paul, I need a favor, a big one. I need passage on the next ship to Proxima Centauri." Then she went to her bedroom and packed a small bag. If the Confederation wouldn't help her reach her son, she would find him herself. 3 days later, Susan stood in the launch bay of the EA's Persistence, one of Earth's few FTL-capable shuttles. Director Johnson had called in several favors to get her aboard. "The Persistence is delivering supplies to the Earth Embassy on Proxima Centauri," he told her. "They had one spare cabin. You'll have to find your own way back." Susan nodded. "Thank you, Paul. I just need to get there." "What will you do when you arrive?" he asked. Susan's expression hardened. "I'm going to find my son and bring him home. And if anyone tries to stop me, they'll regret it." As the Persistence prepared for launch, Susan looked out the viewport at Earth growing smaller below. She had no idea that her journey to find Kevin would change the fate of 3 star systems. She just knew one thing. No one messed with her kids.